So today on our Realtors in Montgomery County show, we've got Keith Robertson, owner of Top Guns Realty and a top producer here in Montgomery County. He sold $18 million worth of real estate last year, and we're super excited to have Keith on the show. Hey, Keith, how's it going?
Oh, good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, Keith. Thank you for asking. So, man, I know that you've been in the business for a while. How did you get started in real estate?
So got started about 30 years ago by accident. Somebody recruited me and said I'd be good at it, and I thought I'd always wanted to be in real estate. So I jumped in and didn't know what I didn't know and jumped in full time. And like most full time realtors, struggled and early on, and then started getting the traction. And it's been a been a wild ride and quite the blessing over the years.
Awesome. That's funny. You got into the business by accident, and with a lot of agents that I've talked with, that kind of tends to happen. It's like, hey, I need a career, or I need, a way to provide for my family, and real estate is there's no ceiling on how much you can make or what you can do, and so that's amazing. So, what was the journey like when you were first getting started? How did you get your business off the ground?
So in those days, the early days, starting out, I started with a Century 21 brokerage, and how I got my business starting out is like a lot of new realtors, right? So a lot of floor time opportunity. I took everything I could get, started knocking doors, calling on people I didn't know, which if I'd been trained right, I would have been calling on people I do know, not ones that don't. And started that process of neighborhood door knocking one by one, and building a business. No kind of marketing, no kind of lead gen as you like have today. It's old school calling people, cold call, knocking doors, and that's how I got the traction started, and started getting to the point where I could try to make a little money and start trying to reinvest.
Gotcha. Awesome. So a lot of door knocking, just a lot of just hard work. Were you working every day, like Monday through Sunday? Did you take any days off? How many hours a week were you working when you were first starting off?
7 days a week and averaging about 10 to 12 hours a day.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that sounds just about right. And so, taking a step back now and looking at your business, you're in a completely different place. You own your own brokerage. You've been in business for a long time. Has your role in what you do every day to grow your business changed at all?
Well, sure. So one of the beauties, right, of getting aged, if you will, or matured in the business, so 30 years now, I don't really have to lead gen at all. We do some, but 85% of my personal business is by referred or repeat customers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the beauty of being around a long time, and doing a good enough job that people think enough of you to refer their family, friends, and neighbors. And so that's how we think about it these days. Is we want to work that sphere. We really don't need to chase cold business. When you get to the point of somewhere, you think about yourself being a professional, then you should be attracting the business, not chasing for the business.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so now most of your business is, or 85% of it is referral based, which is that is amazing. And I also know that you sell a lot of farm and ranch and some $1 million homes. How'd you kind of break into that market?
So how that was from the derivative of buying Top Guns. I acquired Top Guns in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
So I started in Kingwood with Century 21. Then I moved to the Montgomery area in 94.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1999, I did a deal next to the church I was attending with Top Guns. And then one thing led to another. Those guys were at the age then where I am now. And then I bought the company for this, really the sole purpose of getting closer to where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
I was screwed up from birth, so I never learned to work for anybody. So I had to buy it. And so that's what they were strictly doing at the time in 99, was they were almost 100% land and farm ranch type stuff. 1999, they had about 5 residential listings in the company.
Mhm.
Ran a volume, the whole company ran a volume of 18 million. Now we run about 200 million a year.
Wow.
and now our company is split about 50-50 residential to farm and ranch, and then there's a sprinkle of commercial work involved in that. But that's kind of how I matured into that side of it, because coming from Kingwood, we really didn't do a lot of the farm ranch stuff in that market.
Mhm.
Here we Top Guns specialize in that, and then we've grown that business to be probably the top land ranch seller in all the markets around
Wow.
the bordering counties of Montgomery.
That's incredible. And do you think it's a big difference selling, like when you're selling a farm and ranch compared to selling just a normal single family home? Is the learning curve much steeper? Do you feel like it's more difficult to break into that market?
So in terms of breaking in, it's not overly more difficult one to the other. What is different is the whole nomenclature of residential real estate is different from the nomenclature of selling land. People view it differently. So think about, people need to live in a home. They don't need to own land. They're buying land specifically to do different things, not just necessarily build a home on it.
Mhm.
Guys running cows look at it different than guys that are running horses, for example.
Right.
Guys that want to hunt on it are not looking at what the guys that run cows and horses are looking at. They're looking at a whole different thing.
Right.
So, and it does have a lot of moving pieces to it with the mineral rights, oil leases, all kinds of different variables that can play, agriculture leases like hay and other crops. So there's a lot of different moving pieces to that piece of the business, which makes it pretty exciting to be involved in. Not that residential real estate isn't, but it can be pretty standardized compared to selling land and ranch and farms.
Gotcha. And so it's just a whole different, buyer than, somebody buying a single family home. There's different types of buyers in the farm and ranch business. And do you have any tips for new agents that might want to, start selling farm and ranch, and how they could, kind of figure out how to make that work?
So tip number one is understand what you're trying to list and sell.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've never done it, do a little homework on the whys of why you want to do it. So why do you want to be in that business? Make it more than about the big licks you might make in terms of your professional fees. Make it about, is this really something you want to do? Because when you go list a 100-acre place, you'll be out there half a day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different world than listing a home. You may drive 2 hours to get to it. Is that something you want to do? So start to understand the whys of why you want to go down that road, and then do your homework and watch and study folks that do it at a high level. We have realtors here that do it at a very high level that make a lot of money, and there's other people in the marketplace around here. Larry Jacobs, for example, Jacobs Properties almost only do land and ranches. Look online, how are they presenting their opportunities? Start to ask questions of professionals that are in that sphere. One thing I know about real professionals, they don't mind sharing. Because there's room for everybody. They're not hoarding all their information. They'll be more than happy to talk to somebody about how they do it and why. But number one thing is, why do you want to do it? Understand that before you start just trying to jump in, because you could maybe list something for a big numeric number that makes you a big commission check. That shouldn't be your number one why.
Right. And I love what you said about, being a professional and be willing to share information. I think there's definitely enough, opportunities out there for everyone. And if you can help, people grow, it's just a great thing. And so do you have any books or anything, or any training that you did when you were first getting started that you could recommend for new agents getting in the business?
So number one thing that I'd in the times we're in now, I would definitely, everybody should be podcasting Brian Buffini. number
Mhm.
one. Number two, they should be reading E-Myth. E-Myth. Read that book. It's a great one. But all these opportunities are online and ebooks and podcasts. But you will learn a lot by just studying. So what we like to tend to work on now, as much as is learning how other agents do what, we really focus on how do we make ourselves better with mind training, skill
Mhm.
training for the mind. And Brian Buffini is the best at it. And I would advise every agent, new or old, to podcast with Brian Buffini.
You're the second top producer that's mentioned Brian Buffini, and I checked him out a little bit. He looks like he's got some really good things going on. And
Yep.
so, do you have any other tips for new agents getting in the business?
Absolutely. So, number one tip, it's not a part-time business. Number two tip, if you're going to be in the business, then treat it like a business, not a hobby. Number three tip, when you decide to get in real estate, decide to run a business, not be a realtor. And what I mean by that, very simple. It's a business. You are a business. You are the entity. You're the CEO. Treat it like a business. Open a business checking account. Track your business. Understand where it is, where it comes from. Next tip, run a CRM. 70% of all realtors don't even track who they have touched. They don't even track their closed business, people that were actually clients. They have zero client for life program. They don't send out birthdays, acknowledgments for the kids, any of that. It's one and done typically for 70% of all agents. And that's why there's a 70% turnover under 3 years, first 3 years. So if you're going to get in and treat it like a business and learn to be self-disciplined. And if you don't have the self-discipline, self-motivation, then you're not going to succeed.
Mhm.
Next tip, before you do any of that, get online and take the DISC test, D-I-S-C. If you're not scoring out as a high D and a high I, then you're going to be really behind the curveball in terms of being a successful professional at real estate sales. So all that to say, don't take a square hole and put it into a round peg. Right? If you don't do those things, you won't be successful. So make a decision and a commitment. As I like to say, are you committed? Are you interested? A lot of people are interested in real estate. Very few are committed. So if you're not committed, go do something else.
Love it. Those are some awesome tips. And Keith, so that's the end of our show. If anyone wants to get in contact with you, how can they do so?
So call me on my direct cell. It's the easiest way to get me every day. I'm one of those old school guys that actually answers it. So it's 936-522-6100.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Keith.
All right, man. Good to talk to you.
You too.